Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. No order. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Administration Finance Fire Committee meeting 4 for 2018. My name is Councilor Terry Bell, and I will be chairing this meeting. There's sign-up sheets to the right of you, or left, pardon me, on the table. If you'd like to sign them, you can be informed about the outcome of any items on this agenda. Just a reminder that to members of council and the public, all cell phones, pagers, and PDAs to be turned off. Additionally, for your information, we are audio videoing this, and the recording will be made available within 2 to 4 days. Are there any change in order of items on the agenda? Seeing none. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Mayor Joyner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to declare conflict of interest, pecuniary interest on A4618, number 4. That has to do with the information report, draft regulations on mandatory training and certification for firefighters, as there is a budgetary component to this item, and my brother is a volunteer firefighter. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. Any others? Seeing none. We did have one appointment tonight. Mrs. Pickvance, she'll not be able to come tonight. It's item A44-18, and our clerk, Ms. Langley, has an email she'll read into the minutes.
Mrs. Pinkthance advised us that she was not able to come and asked that we read the following into the minutes. Rural infrastructure. No doubt you cannot imagine what the mud roads are like today. There are no words to describe. This situation cannot continue. I want my road fixed. Concession 3 should be hard surfaced from one end to the other. I am sure the money can be found. On a separate note, is gravel really cheaper? No, if not, if you look at the big picture, how many years does a hard surfaced road last? Using Abington Road as an example, it was done in the early 90s and not again until a couple of years ago. Can we say, minor repairs aside, 15, 20 years? Now look at the price of gravel. To keep any kind of gravel surface on the road, it would need replacement gravel every 2-3 years. Trust me, I know we went without gravel and lived with mud for the past 2 years. Do the math, add in the cost of the grader, dump trucks, wages, etc. Sorry, but the math just does not add up. Time for some serious thought, folks. There will be continuing dialogue until rural infrastructure gets the attention it deserves. Brenda Pickvance.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any members of the public present who wish to address any items on the Administration, Finance, Fire Committee agenda? Seeing none. Next is Fire Department update, item A45-18. Chief Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Station 1 had 26 calls, Station 2 had 7, and Pelham down at the east end had 2. Under new recruits, we'll be hosting a recruitment open house in early May. I just haven't finalized a date on when that's going to be, so it'll be coming up. Fire prevention and fire inspection at 114 Griffin Street. And fire department activities plans are underway for the Public Works Emergency Service Open House. It's on May the 23rd this year. So we're gearing up for that. And we did a fire department funeral walkthrough for Captain Phil Griffin's mother. That's it. Pretty quiet.
Thank you for that. Any questions, comments from the council? Seeing none. Thank you, Chief Fisher. Consent agenda items. Note all items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial and can be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussions on these items unless council members request it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. Mayor Joyner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we vote on 1, 2, 3, and 5 as far as my conflict, please, sir?
Yeah. So okay.
I will move that, Mr. Chair, too, as well, if you'd like.
Yeah. Oh, okay, you want to do a section, okay. Do it real quick. And Councillor Billsman seconds it. So all those in favor, pardon me, yes, all those in favor of everything except 4? Carries. Okay, and now item 4 is Mayor Joyner's conflict. And that's for information report WLFD-06-18, draft regulations of the mandatory training and certification for firefighters. Moved and seconded, moved by Councilor Billsma, seconded by Councilor Chichek. All those in favor? Oh, pardon me, any questions, comments? Sorry. One, Councilor Gadan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Chief Fisher. I'm just wondering if the Association of Fire Chiefs is looking at petitioning the ministry for more courses. I read the report, and obviously, every time they bring something new, whether it's fire department or education or wherever, there always are new requirements. Sometimes the number of courses automatically increase to allow for that, and sometimes it takes a little work. So I'm just wondering if the chiefs have talked about that.
Through you, Chairman Bell, to Councillor Gannon. Yes, the OAFC has lobbied the ministry, as well as, I think there was 368 fire departments that put in some comments in regards to the draft regs. So as it stands, they're looking at pushing it out to 2020 instead of 2019. In regards to the courses, they're trying to make it where you can get free online course.
Okay.
Because it's, as we all know, it's so hard to get into the fire college up in Gravenhurst. So they're trying to do that, and they're also trying to do some regionalized training as well. So down in the Niagara region, we have 2 facilities, the New Grimsby facility and Fort Erie facility. So they're trying to make the courses available. Are they going to, when that comes out?
Yeah.
That's here to say when the time comes.
So that's a constant keep on them kind of a thing
Yes.
to make sure that those things happen.
It's also, AMO is also pushing for it too as well. It's on their radar as well. So there's lots of lobbying going in regards to the draft because it's going to be a little bit costly. I haven't quite figured out those costs yet, but there's a lot of rural departments that are not very happy about it right now, that's for sure.
Well, further to that, that's what I was wondering, actually, when you say rural departments. I didn't know whether going forward there would, rural councils should in some way also be petitioning, because obviously it's going to affect municipal finances
For sure.
as well. So-
Now, having been at meetings, there is some potential of provincial funding, but as we all know, the election's in June, so we're not sure where that's going to go right now.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. 8, communications, item A47-18, Ministry of Agricultural, Food and Rural Affairs, Ontario Wildlife Damage Compensation Program, OWDCP, response, and it's for information only. Councillor Rayner.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm sure members of committee have received a letter from the Minister of Agriculture and Food, Jeff Leal. I had went to see Sam Oosteroff with regards to this after this township put together a proposal to send to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. Specifically as it related to a situation that I had where I had suffered a loss due to coyotes, and the Ministry of Agriculture and Food had failed to accept, recognize, or appreciate the loss because they didn't have a picture with a coyote in its mouth standing there, so that they were convinced 100%. They did not believe the livestock evaluator that was elected by council to represent the farmers, and this situation has resulted in a lot of frustration. The letter from Mr. Leal says when losses do occur, the Ontario Wildlife Damage Compensation Program provides eligible farmers financial support in a timely manner to help to offset those losses. Well, that did not happen. Consequently, that was the reason why I went to see Mr. Oosteroff, nor did the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food offer any support. I phoned the Ministry of Natural Resources, and they happen to have people on staff that were familiar with the coyotes in the area, had hunting groups in the area, and recommended people for me to contact. So I had to do all the legwork, and they didn't do any of it. The last part of his letter, it says, as part of this work, my ministry heard directly from municipal investigators, and I can confirm that we are looking for ways to better support them in ensuring their expertise can be brought to bear in supporting informed evidence-based assessments. I'm just wondering through you, Mr. Chair, to our CAO, are you aware of any of our municipal investigator, Clifford Travis, being contacted by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food?
Through you, and I'm not the CAO, but I think you're looking to me. No, I did not hear that he had been contacted.
Okay. As I said, I'm hoping that this is going to be better than it was. Part of the thing that I found frustrating, and I thought I would do it just to see, Ministry of Agriculture and Food is a different facet of government than most governments in the fact that agriculture continues on a 24/7 basis. It doesn't take weekends off, it doesn't take holidays off. And just for the heck of it, I thought I would call the ministry on Labor Day and Thanksgiving Day on Monday. And it said they're closed, and then it says their office hours are open Monday to Friday, so they didn't even change their system. So I'm not sure how dedicated they are to agriculture, because agriculture continues on a 24/7 basis. So I'm not really sure how far this is going. I'm very frustrated, and I'm doing this on behalf of a lot of farmers who are suffering losses. The two hunting groups that have gone out and hunted coyotes in my area because of this have a count so far of 75, and it's getting larger. So the situation is obviously affecting a lot of farmers, and the sooner they do something about this, the better. But I'm not holding my breath on this, because I'm just not getting the feeling that they're really wanting to work with the evaluators, because the evaluators are the liaison between the farmers and the municipalities, and their report should be the one they respect if they don't have pictures. And it's frustrating to me that I don't understand. There was lambs, goats, and sheep that are taken by coyotes, and there was one a couple weeks after my birds were taken. And when Clifford went to take the pictures, he seen the coyotes in the woods looking, waiting for them to leave to go back at the carcass. That's because the carcass was too heavy to carry. In the chickens situation, they put them in their mouth, they're only 5 pounds, and they take off. So I do not understand why they don't apply. I know the University of Guelph, when I went there, at a fisheries and wildlife program, and I'm sure if they graduated from that, they would have known that coyotes can lift a 5-pound chicken. I just don't understand why they don't follow up and take more care, respect, and work with the farmer, showing an interest in the farmer, and taking the details that would be required to investigate this properly. It doesn't reflect well, in my opinion, having a degree from agriculture, having worked with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, that they're really supporting the farmer. And I've done everything I can to try to get the message across. I guess all we can do is wait and see. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Councillor Chicha?
Thank you. Mine's a direct question. Did we, when we dealt with this, as to the impact it had on the credibility of the evaluator, did we sent our letter to Minister Leal, did we not? Through you, perhaps, Mr. Chair, to the then acting CAO?
I believe that's what we got.
Through you, I don't have a copy of the letter, and I do not recall. We did send it to quite a number of people. I would have to check.
But it did, the reply did come directly from Minister Leal to Ms. Langley, who is the clerk. So it would, I think we did send the letter. And if I read this letter from Minister Leal, it doesn't say that he spoke to our investigators, but that they are updating the OWDCP. And as part of the work, they've talked directly with municipal evaluators as well as other stakeholders. So perhaps if we're concerned about this, as time goes on, we might have staff check with the minister's office to see where the evaluation and the updating is, because I really do think we've done everything we can do on this particular instance. And I know that farmers are taking precautionary measures across all municipalities with regard to their livestock, and it's not just us. So I think we need to go with the minister and work with the OWDCP, and have to put our own concerns aside and work with this as a particular issue for the industry, agricultural industry. Thank you. So if we could, if staff could report back if they hear anything about the updates, I think that closes this matter.
Yep. Okay, good, okay. Councillor Rayner?
Mr. Chair, thank you. The only reason I asked if it was our municipal livestock investigator that was contacted was because this is what precipitated the letter, and others of the 444 municipalities in the province of Ontario may have had similar things, but may not have gone to the extent that we did to bring it to the attention of the minister. And I would think that this would be the first case that you would have wanted to contact, because this was the one that precipitated the letter that would have helped you to determine what's actually going out there, because they've experienced this problem, and therefore they could have been looking after to rectify it. So that's why I asked, because if they hadn't contacted our livestock evaluator, then I don't think they went about it in the right way. But that letter, as Councillor Chichok said, was sent to AMO, it was sent to Sam Oosterhoff, and it was sent to the Minister of Agriculture and Food, Jeff Leal. I also went to see Sam Oosterhoff personally.
You said that.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Good, good, okay. B, item A48-18, President of Smithville Co-ed Slow Pitch League, fundraiser, waiving of ball diamond rental fees. The recommendation to the correspondence from the Smithville Co-ed Slow Pitch League dated April 10, 2018, requesting the waiving of fees for the use of one ball diamond without lights for 3 hours at a cost of $61.80, including HST, on June 23, 2018, for a fundraiser to buy new bases be received. And I need a mover and a seconder. Mayor Joyner, Councilor Chichok.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to put and received and supported.
Okay.
I will concur with that recommendation. As I said.
Okay.
Through you to members of committee, if we are going to support it, I suggest that we add, and that the cost be expensed to the corporate sponsorship account number 1-02-02-502-53000B.
So would
If
that
that's
be an-
agreeable to the mover and
Would
seconder.
that be amendment? No, okay.
Friendly.
So is that, you're okay
Friendly,
with that?
yeah.
You're okay. Councilor Chichok?
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment, but for goodness sakes, for $61, it is largely innocuous, really, and I believe that it would not be noticed if it was absorbed in the departmental budget. So I understand, but I do think that we need to start bringing things like this, where you've got a group of people who are holding a fundraiser to self-support themselves. We need to think about a new approach, especially when the fee is as minimal, although if the weather stays the way it is, they may want snowplows out there. But assuming that we'll be under normal spring conditions, I'd like to see reports come forward with not the need to put it to the corporate sponsorship account. That's my opinion only.
Okay, noted. All those in favor of the friendly amendment? Carries. As,
That was the whole motion,
yeah,
not just the friendly.
oh, okay, pardon.
That was the whole motion.
My mistake. All those in favor of the whole motion? Sorry. Carried. Sorry, thank you. Okay, staff reports, item A49-18, Deputy Clerk, recommendation report, RFD-C-08-18, new election sign bylaw. Recommendation 1, the report RFD-C-08-2018 dated April 16, 2018 regarding new election sign bylaw be received, and that a bylaw be adapted that regulates the placing, erecting, displaying of election signs within the boundaries of the Township of West Lincoln for the federal, provincial, regional, and municipal elections in order to better manage election signs on private and public properties, including enforcement procedures attached here or as Schedule A, and that bylaw 2002-115, which confirms that fees and charges for the Township of West Lincoln be amended to provide the fees outlined in the new election sign bylaw. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Chichok, Councilor Bilsma. Any questions, comments? Can I just get Joanne, please, and then Mayor Joyner, and then Councilor Bosner?
Thank you, Chair Bell. I just noticed when I was reviewing the bylaw about half an hour ago, that there is a problem with the bylaw under section 5.2, number 2. That line that says be of size not larger than 3 meters square or 32.3 square feet in sign area should be removed. There was an error in that, and I just noticed it now. So I think it was a paste and copy kind of thing. So Carolyn will have to put an amendment forward to change the bylaw to remove that line.
Can we get a, for changing it? Yeah. Can we get a move in a second for the amendment? Mayor Joyner, Councilor Trombetta. Okay.
Through you, the amendment would simply read that the section 5.2 bracket II be deleted from the bylaw.
Heard the amendment, all those in favor? Carries.
Of the
Of the amendment, yes. Sorry. Thank you. Mayor Joyner.
I believe Councilor Bosma was before me, but we're going back to the original motion, correct, Chair?
Now we are, yes, sir.
So, just to, I had a kind of a question with regards to procedure. I read through the bylaw, and my concern was with respect to the township removing signs, and there would be a cost associated with that, although there was some discussion of whether, to some degree, we would play that by ear. My first concern is, so I've run in a number of campaigns, locally, provincially, federally. When you have volunteers, you can instruct them as best as you can, and sometimes they get a little lax, sometimes they get a little careless, sometimes they get a little exuberant. And well-meaning, they're trying to support a candidate, but sometimes they miss. So I just want to make sure that the first course of action is to call the campaign connection. If township has a problem with a sign, we have the same volunteers, and usually we, in my opinion, or in my experience, we've sent the same one out there so that they learn to go correct the sign. And sometimes it's too close to a road or too close to a sight line, and sometimes it's a matter of inches, and so they just want to correct that. I just want to make sure that the first course of action is to contact before we start removing at the municipal or municipality's cost and start billing to some of the campaigns. I know at the municipal level, some of these campaigns operate at bare bones, couple of dollars, so a couple of charges would bankrupt the campaigns.
If I can just piggyback on that for 1 second, my own personal experiences, our staff does contact the candidate to say, hey, you've got a sign, we need to remove it.
Yeah.
Okay, so just,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
helps you not, but
Yeah.
that is the first course of action. Sorry.
That's fine, Chair Bell. I just wanted to confirm that
Yeah.
truly is the first point of contact, is contacting the candidate, or in this election, we have third-party advertisers. So once we find out whose sign it is, then we will for sure contact that person and hopefully have it resolved within 24 hours. If not, then at that point, we'll go back out and remove the sign. Unless, of course, there's some type of safety issue, then I think that we have to proceed on those types of issues.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Mayor Joyner?
Mr. Chair, I have a question, and at first glance of this bylaw, and through you, Mr. Chair, through to Ms. Shime, I really don't see a whole lot of difference other than from our old sign bylaw, other than the fact of the charging if you put your signs in a legal place. The only real difference that I see, Ms. Shime, and maybe you can correct me, is the signs on the vehicles. Other than that, is there really any difference between this bylaw and the one that we had last election? Can you please expand on that?
Yes, I can. Through you, Chair Bell, to Mayor Joyner. I believe the bylaw that we've presented does provide clearer definitions of sign restrictions on all properties. It speaks to agriculture and residential, restricting the placement of signs to 2 per candidate, and in all other properties being 3 per candidate. So we're trying to deal with reducing visual clutter, those types of things. We're also restricting with the with Bill 181 and then the new requirements under that, the nomination period, the time between the nomination day and the election is much longer, because we're talking the 4th Friday of July, and where it was the 2nd Friday of September. So we've reduced the time that signs can be put up to 45 days prior to the election, or the day of the writ when it comes to federal and provincial elections. So we also reduced, or we also speak to taking the signs down after the election, being 72 hours after the election. All signs have to be removed. So I think we, like I said, I think we enhance safety issues, restrictions. I think we've spoke to a lot of things where we've eliminated investigation and interpretation. We've defined more clearly those issues in this bylaw. And again, as you stated on motor vehicles, there's no signs permitted. No, anyone using their vehicle as a sign billboard, they could not be parked on a township property or within a voting place or adjacent to a voting place up to 50 meters. The regional roads bylaw speaks to no signs being permitted on regional roads. We're fine that way as well. And we're also instituting the removal of the signs as a deterrent, and we'll see how it goes with that. Hopefully, we don't have to implement a deposit. There's other municipalities in the Niagara region that are instituting a deposit, but we're going to watch that over this election and see how that goes, and if we need to, then we'll amend the election sign bylaw prior to the 2022 election.
Mayor Jordan?
So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Shimei, for that clarification. I'm glad that you brought up one point, and it's one point that I'm going to ask Council for an amendment, actually. And this amendment is on page 28, and it's one of the first things you said. Staff also recommends the inclusion of a restriction on the number of election signs permitted on private property within the boundaries of the township for each candidate as follows. And it's the first bullet: no more than 2 election signs per candidate on lands zoned residential and agricultural. I would like to change that number to 3. And here is my rationale. My rationale is that you can find an agricultural property, a large agricultural property, that is actually on a corner. So my way of thinking is that you could have one sign in the field on one road, and then the house be the second, in front of the house be the second sign, and then at the corner on this agricultural property, which could be a ways away, there could be the potential for a third sign. It's not a big change, it's not a big amendment. I just see that from the agricultural point of view, some of these big farms out in rural West Lincoln, the number 3 would be much better than the number 2. I'd be looking for a seconder on that, please.
Seconder? Councillor Trombetta? You heard it. All those in favor of the amendment? Thank you. Carried. Okay. Any more questions, comments? All those in favor of the original motion as amended? Carried. Okay, that's it. Okay, other business. 10, item A 50-18. We're going to hear from our CAO, Ms. Henry, in regards to employee professional accomplishments.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Can you hear me, first of all?
I can.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to comment, Chair Bell. So this is a piece of information that really gets to acknowledging some of the professional development that staff have taken, and there are 4 staff that are listed here The first is Barb Hutchinson, who has taken the Business Officials and the Law course. It's one of the Ontario Business Building Officials Act. And I'm going to ask for clarification on that. Is that the right name of the OBOA Association course? The other two as well were Jessica Crows and Andrew McMurtry. They took the same course, and those courses are good in terms of supporting our staff in developing new capacity in a different area, but also for ensuring coverage when different questions come in from different residents. And then Jeff Menard just finished his Part 8 of the on-site sewage systems course, and that's also through the building code requirements, and a big accomplishment as well. So very, very proud of our staff for taking the time and the effort to make sure that their skills are upgraded.
Thank you. Next is item A51-17, members of committee verbal updates from members of the boards or committees if required. Seeing none? Okay. Oh, hang on. Councillor Chichuk? Okay. This is members committee. B. Okay. Okay, C's next. Okay, seeing none. Item A52-18, members of committee, other business, items of informative nature. Councillor Chichuk.
Chair, and I guess I'm like our new CAO. I can never find out whether the green light is on. Anyway, just a couple pieces of information. This Saturday coming up, April 21st, is Farm Days at the West Niagara Fairgrounds. And the reason I bring that up, I know you're all aware of it, it's an opportunity for the township to celebrate farming and the various industries that are out here. But it is the inaugural introduction of the new 4-H, what shall we call it, the back bacon on a bun booth and milkshake booth. That's what everybody calls it, but in fact it is, it's there. They had a grant from the Greenbelt Association last year as part of the Canada 150, and so it's the first time the trailer will be out. So if you've been craving back bacon on a bun, this is an unpaid solicited announcement, or the milkshakes. It will be there as well. Also, Mr. Chair, as everyone here on council knows, there is a session being held by the Mothers Against Wind Turbines this Saturday, and it starts in the afternoon, and it is about stray voltage, and there's a fundraiser that evening to support their initiatives that will starts with a dinner at 6 o'clock and goes till 8. So lots of things going on this Saturday.
Thank you, Councillor Chichuk. Anyone, Mayor Jordan?
Mr. Chair, I want to remind council that it's 2 weeks from this Saturday, or 1 week from this Saturday, but April 28th and 29th is the first ever Ontario Alpacas show at our West Niagara Agriculture Centre. There will be alpaca farmers coming to West Niagara from all across Ontario for this 2-day event. They tell me that it's going to be a very, very large event, probably one of the largest ones that we've seen at the West Niagara Agriculture Centre. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council? Councillor Gadan?
Just one quick thing. The mayor as well, I thought you were probably going to say something. On Saturday, April 21st, since April 22nd is Earth Day, the MIAC group that the mayor chairs and hosts, the young people are doing some cleanup. But I also see that in Smithville News and Views that there are other community groups looking for volunteers to help clean up particular areas of West Lincoln on Saturday as well. So if that's something that is of interest to the people who perhaps watch this, they can connect on that site and find out where things are going on.
Supplementary to that, Mr. Chair, that any groups wishing, or just any residents in general, wishing to clean up any portion of West Lincoln can contact Miss Wendy Beatty, and the township will provide these groups with gloves and bags in order to clean up Township of West Lincoln. A very good initiative. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Council. I have nothing to say now. Very good. That was good, guys. Okay. Next, new business. Only items that require immediate attention direction, and first must get the approval of a motion to introduce a new item of business. Seeing none. Okay, confidential matters. Item A 53-18, CAO, Ms. Henry, and Court, Ms. Langley. Various personnel matters and recommendation that the CAO, are you done that one? No, sorry. Okay. We'll leave that one out. Yeah. Okay, the acceptable closed session exemptions, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal and/or local board employees. That's it. Need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Bilsma, Councilor Chichak. Okay, all those in favor? Carries. We're now in closed session. Thank you for coming, everyone.